Hey, science peeps, welcome back. It is Tuesday, April 21st, and we're going to do a walkthrough of our lesson today, Chapter 1, Lesson 1. Again. All right, so you go to your Google Classroom, click on the top link, go to right here where it says Tuesday, April 21st. Click on that. Okay, so yesterday we did the April 20th activity, so we can skip down and go to April 21st. So today we are going to talk about what cells are made of. Now, I know you don't have your workbook. So I have in each one, whenever there's a workbook activity, a link. So it says use this link for the online textbook. So all you have to do is click on that Pearson link. I'm already signed in. So what it's going to do is going to tell you to sign in. You're just going to put in your Google email and then your Google password with a zero, an added zero at the end. Okay, and then it'll bring you to this window and you open in a new window and it takes you right to, come on. Hey, Dana, thank you. Chapter 1, Lesson 1. So I'll have these links that'll take you directly to the lesson that we're working on for that day. Okay, and that's, the easiest way to get there. So we're going to talk about cells today. Just keep in mind, okay, when you go here, I have the one thing. Generally, you don't have to worry about all of these links that I have. This is what we would have used if we were in the classroom. I've put all of these hyperlinks into the hyperdoc. But the one thing that you could do is wherever I have my Google Slides, this would be the lessons that I use in the classroom to show you different pictures of things. So that's one thing. I'm going to use this as a tool to help us learn. But you can always go ahead and click on my Google Slides and take a look at what we're learning. So we did this yesterday, okay? I'm actually going to start with this picture first, okay? So let's go back to the hyperdoc, and it says we always will do the workbook activities together, okay? So pretty much the workbook activities, the red box we do together, so you just have to worry about the other boxes on your own. So we are going to get a better understanding about cells and the cell theory. So first we're going to complete workbook activities on pages 4 through 7. There's only 3 today, figure 1, figure 2, and assess your understanding 1A. And this assignment is in your Google Classroom. So remember, we're doing our Google Docs here. So go to your page and now just hover over each of the links. Remember, don't click on it yet. Now this one says Chapter 1, Lesson 1, Workbook Activities, okay, but it's microscopes. I've split apart Chapter 1, Lesson 1 into 4 days because there's a lot to it. So we're not doing that one. We're doing the cells, okay? Chapter 1, Lesson 1, Workbook Activities, cells. So click on that. And I already have the title up here for you, the workbook pages, and which activities we are doing. And there's an ed puzzle at the end, okay? So all you have to do is start clicking in here and writing your answers into here, okay? When you're done, you'll turn it in, but don't turn it in yet. All right, so let's go to the online book. Let's see, I have a couple of links up here. Let's make this easy for ourselves and close a couple of those. Okay, so actually, I'm going to go to this first. So what are cells? So the smallest unit of life is a single cell, okay? You can't have anything smaller that's considered alive, smaller than a single cell. So this picture, I have a couple pictures here, it shows you some single cells. This is actually a white blood cell. We have these in our bodies and they move. Some people consider them alive. So you can see the job of the white blood cell is to hunt down any invaders in our bodies, bacteria and viruses. And this little speck here is also a single cell. It's a bacteria. And like you see it hunting down the bacteria, it's chasing it down, and bam, it got it, and it's going to eat it, and it's going to destroy it. So whenever you're sick, our white blood cells get activated in our body, and they hunt down those bad guys, and they eat them. They literally eat them. Okay. We're also going to learn about plant and animal cells, but we'll learn about those starting tomorrow. Plant cells are generally they're rectangular or squarish, and animal cells are circular. So these little green blobs in here are not cells. This, you see this outline here, and it goes out and stretches out beyond the picture. That's the cell. And inside of cells, you have things called organelles. And these little organelles are chloroplasts. This is what makes plants green. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. But this square is one single cell. You can see it's next to another single cell and another single cell. They're all next to each other. Okay, makes up the plant. And then this picture here, it's showing you blood, like red blood cells. Red blood cells are single cells, but there's lots of them here. And this is blood moving through your blood vessels. Really cool picture. If you put this into present mode, I actually have hyperlinks on each one of these. So you can click on any of these pictures and it takes you to some more information if you're interested in learning more about it. This is a picture of a white blood cell dying, and it talks about that they actually communicate to other white blood cells around them, so they talk. And then there's a video down further, a little bit more, but each one of these has a different link for that specific topic. So let's move on. We're going to do, we already talked about this. Cells are the basic units of structure and function in living things. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about what those structures are, what those functions are. Today, we're just going to be very general about just how we even discover cells in the first place. Okay, so this is our first activity. The picture is really small and it's a little blurry. So I'm going to go over to page 5 of our workbook. If you clicked on it, you can join me here too. And this is figure 1. So figure 1 says, a single cell has the same needs as an entire organism. Okay, so again, you can have a living single cell. You can have an amoeba. It's a single cell and it's a living thing, but it's one cell. It has the same needs, basic needs, as a multicellular organism, like people. We're multicellular organisms. So it says on each blank arrow, write the name of a material that moves as shown. So meaning that food, a single cell, see the arrows going into the cell? So a single cell needs food to survive. Now there's an arrow going out, it's blank. We don't know what is it getting rid of. See how the arrow is going away from it? And that means it's getting rid of something. Water, a single cell needs water to survive. And then it gets rid of something else. And then a single cell needs something else to survive. It's blank. And then it gets rid of carbon dioxide. Okay. So basically there's 3 hours going in, 3 hours going out. We have to fill in the blanks here. But let's take a look at this multicellular organism. It's a person. And there's blanks here as well. There's 3 arrows going into this multicellular organism that it needs, and there's 3 arrows going out. So we actually do not have to read the book in order to find out the answer, because it just said here, a single cell needs the same things as an entire organism. So actually the answers that are in here, okay, these 1, 2, 3 answers can be transferred onto the lines here and vice versa. The words that are here can be transferred onto the lines here, because what it's trying to explain to you is that even though it's a single cell and even though we're multicellular organisms, we all have the same basic needs. So all living organisms need food to go into the cell, water to go into the cell. Now, what else is going into this multicellular organism? Oxygen. So then what does this single-celled organism need? It needs oxygen. Food, water, oxygen. Without that, neither a single cell or a multicellular organism can survive. But now we have to get rid of some things. So we see here that the single-celled organism is getting rid of carbon dioxide. Well, what do we breathe in? We breathe in oxygen, and it's telling us this right here, okay? So you can fill in that blank for oxygen. But what do we all get rid of? So we get rid of waste, right? You eat food, you don't use all that energy, you got to get rid of it. So we get rid of wastes, we get rid of excess water. And the biggest way we get rid of excess water is through sweating. And then we get rid of, tells you right here, carbon dioxide. So how are we going to write this in our Google form? So or Google Doc, I should say. So let's go over to our Google Doc. Nope, not that one. Okay. So we're going to write single, I can spell, cell. So it needs. So what were the basic needs? It needs food, water, and oxygen. Okay. And then it gets rid of carbon, dioxide, carbon dioxide. It gets rid of excess water. Hello, water. And it gets rid of wastes. So now we're going to write down an organism. What does an organism need? Well, we just literally wrote it down. An organism has the same needs as a single cell and vice versa. The organism needs food, water, and we gets rid of carbon dioxide, water, and wastes. Same needs, single cell, multicellular organism. Okay, so now let's go on to figure 2. And now this is a video. You can pause me. You can go back to yours and, write it at your own leisure. Okay, so let's go to the next slide here. Let's talk about microscopes. So we're going to go to our workbook. So the whole thing is we didn't know about cells, really what they looked like until the 1600s with the invention of the microscope. So in the 1600s, no one knew cells existed because we couldn't see them. So around 1590, the invention of the first microscope allowed people to see very small objects. I mean, 1590, that was a long time ago. Pretty impressive, I think. So a microscope is an instrument that makes small objects look larger. Okay, just like we learned we know that a telescope, we can see objects that are far away. Microscopes, we can see objects and enlarge them to make them look bigger. So then over the next 200 years, the microscopes really developed. Take a look at the first microscope. This is amazing. I'm going to go to our slides here. I have a link here, the history of the microscope. I had to look it up. If you let me click on you, that would be nice. The computer's not being nice to me. Okay, so I clicked on that link, the history of the microscope, and I had to look up how did they use this crazy looking microscope. You can click on all these links to see how far we've come. But the first microscope, okay, looked like this. And I'm looking at it like, how did you use it? So I had to look it up. So Anton von Leeuwenhoek, okay, this was his microscope. He used a single convex glass lens attached to a metal holder and was focused using the screws. And this is how he saw cells. It's crazy. Like you probably can make this at home right now. But we went from here all the way to this modern day microscope today. I mean, it's crazy. So, and we could see things that we probably never thought we could see before. And who knows where that's going to take us in the future. So anyway, I wanted to share that website with you. So we went from this to what we can see today. All right. So let me go back to the workbook. So it says, let's talk about here cell theory. So the cell theory is a widely accepted explanation of the relationship between cells and living things. And we're going to look at the 5 people who came up with the parts of the cell theory. They came up with these parts of the cell theory between the late 1500s to the 1800s. And why I'm bringing that up to you is because the cell theory, the main parts of the cell theory, still hold true today. And that's pretty rare, I think, that hundreds of years later, we still find that what these people came up with for the cell theory is still true today. So that's pretty impressive. So it says, figure 2, the cell theory describes how cells relate to the structure and function of living things. Answer the questions in the spaces provided. Okay, so let's read this. In 1663, Robert Hooke used his microscope to observe a thin slice of cork. I'll show you where cork comes from in a second. Cork, the bark of the cork oak tree, is made up of cells that are no longer alive. To Hooke, the empty spaces in the cork look like tiny rectangular rooms. Therefore, Hooke called the empty spaces cells, which means small rooms. Okay, so what was important about Hooke's work? So what was important about Hooke's work was he was the first person to see cells, and he gave cells their name. So let's go over here to our activity. So for the first one, Hooke was the first person to see cells and to give cells their name. Okay, that's the first part. Let's go down. All right, so the next question says, let's talk about the next person involved with the discovery of cells and the cell theory. I love saying his name, Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Okay, so von Leeuwenhoek built microscopes in his spare time. That's a really nice hobby. Around 1674, he looked at drops of lake water, scrapings from teeth and gums, and water from rain gutters. Yummy. Leeuwenhoek was surprised to find a variety of one-celled organisms, and he noted that many of them whirled, hopped, or shot through the air like fast fish. And he called these moving organisms animalcules. That means little animals. So what did what did they reveal? Okay, so his findings revealed, let's go over here. His findings that living things were smaller than the eye could see, and he named them animalcules. I think I spelled that wrong. Let's see, let me go back because I don't want to misspell things for you guys. He named them animal with a cules at the end, Cules. Animal. I forgot my L. There you go. Okay, thank you, spell check. Okay, so now there's one more question to this figure 2. Let's go back. And it's actually on the next page. Okay, we are now on page 7. And it says, now there's 3 more people that contributed to the cell theory. I love saying all these names, Schleiden, Schwann, and Virchow. Okay, in 1838, now we're like 150 years later, okay? Using his own research and the research of others, Matthias Schleiden concluded that all plants were made of cells. A year later, Theodor Schwann reached the same conclusion about animal cells. And then in 1855, Rudolf Virchow proposed that new cells are formed only from cells that already exist. So it's not like you can have a cell pop out of nowhere. Cells come from other cells. They multiply, they divide, and they make new cells. Okay, cells in our body are always dying. New ones are always being made. And actually, every 7 years, every cell that was in your body 7 years ago has been replaced by something new. Okay, so it takes about 7 years for every single cell to be replaced. So let's take a look here. To which part of the cell theory did Virchow contribute? So Virchow was the last person that cells come from living. All cells come from cells. So that's what we're going to write down. All cells come from out of nowhere. All right, figure 2 is done. Now let's go to figure 1A. I'm going to go back over here to my activity. This video, the powers of 10, it's a hyperlink in your hyperdoc, so just hold tight on that one. It's a really cool video. Okay, let's talk about the cell theory first. So what are the main components of the cell theory? and we're just kind of repeating what we just said, all living things are composed of cells. Okay, we learned that in the 1600s, 15 and 1600s. Cells are the basic unit of structure and function in living things, and all cells are produced from other cells. Okay, now here's 1A. Why would Hooke's discovery have been impossible without a microscope? So think about that. Why? What was so important about the invention of the microscope? Well, we couldn't see things that were that small with our eyes. So Hooke's discovery of the microscope was so important because we were able to see cells which are smaller than our eyes can see, right? So just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So we were finally able to see. Okay, let's go back to the slideshow because I want to talk a little bit more about cell theory, show you some really cool pictures here. Okay, so we would have taken notes on this in class. So Robert Hooke, just to review, he was the first person to describe cells. He observed them in the 1660s, and he looked at thin slices of cork under a microscope. So this is a cork tree, okay? You actually don't have to kill the tree to get cork. And what you do is you would strip the bark, like these gentlemen here are doing, and whoops, and you would take the little pieces. I thought I had a picture of that. Oh, there we go. And this is what they would put like in wine bottles. I know they use it for that, and corks use actually you can make flooring out of cork too. And he actually, Robert Hooke, he knew that in monasteries that the monks stayed in these tiny little rooms. And a room that a monk stays in is called a cell. And there's literally little square rooms, one next to another. And that's why he called them cells, because he thought that that's what they looked like, the monks' cells that he stayed in. Okay, this is Hooke's drawing of the cork cell. This is his original drawing. Okay, so you can see here the little square rooms over there. And it's a plant cell, so the cells will be squarish. Okay, this is what a cork cell actually looks like under a microscope. I had slides for you. Sorry that we're not going to be able to see them for ourselves, but you can see, like, we say plant cells are square. They're like squarish. Okay, nothing's like a perfect square unless you're doing geometry. So they're like squarish shape. Anton van Leeuwenhoek. Okay, so he was a Dutch merchant. He observed cells in the 1670s, and he named what he saw the animalcules, or little animals. And he was the first person to see bacteria. So these are some yummy bacteria. E. coli is up here. Yes, it's that stuff that sometimes we get on lettuce. Here is salmonella. Okay, salmonella poisoning. Like if you don't cook your chicken long enough, there could be a bacteria in the meat, and so that's why you really should eat your meat like well done, in my opinion. All right. Here's another picture of it. Lovely. It's pretty though, isn't it? That's a shame. A pretty little thing. It makes us sick. Ooh, the flesh-eating bacteria. Look at those spikes on it. That's why it's so dangerous. They're like, and these little tails make them propel them. They have 3 tails. Crazy. So they're really like a vicious bacteria. They move. They have spikes. They pop your cells. They're really cool looking. All right, here's some more bacteria. Hope you brush your teeth today because this is the bacteria that lives in your mouth. If you brush your teeth, they won't be there as much. Okay. And then when you have strep throat, this is what the yellow is what the bacteria looks like. There's good bacteria that lives in your intestines, and this is it. So this is why you should eat yogurt, especially if you're taking an antibiotic, because it'll replace that good bacteria. There's live bacteria in yogurt, and it's good. It helps you digest things. There's the bacteria that is used to make cheese, and this is what it looks like. Yes, there is bacteria in cheese. Yum. You will never eat food again after this, I bet. And then this is the strep bacteria, just a closer up version of what it looks like. Okay. This is, let's see here. So the lactic acid bacteria used to make cheese again. This, oh, where am I? Why does it keep repeating slides? I don't know why it was doing that. Okay. Anyway, the computer's playing tricks on me. Thanks a lot. Or it's the ghost. Okay, Matthias Schladen. So he observed cells in the 1830s. He studied plant cells, and he says that all plant parts are made of cells. Okay, so here is an Elodia plant, which again we would have looked at in the classroom. Sorry, and when organelles, these are organelles, things that are inside cells, they don't just sit still. Things are always moving around, and this is why plants are green. And these are the chloroplasts moving around in the cytoplasm. Don't worry, we're going to learn all these words tomorrow in the cells. Cytoplasm is a fluid that all the organelles float around in. Okay, Theodor Schwann. He observed the cells in the 1830s. He studied animal cells. He wrote the first two parts of the cell theory, but he got his information from the guys before him. And he said that all organisms are made of one or more cells, still holds true today, and that the cell is a basic unit of living things. These are some of his drawings. Okay, I know I'm going a little fast. You can always go back and look at these slides later. This is a picture. Now, they couldn't see this in the 1800s. We can see this today with really high-powered microscopes, but this is a picture of an animal cell under a microscope, like a cross-section. They took a slice of it. And it's roundish. So you see, it's not perfectly round, but it's roundish. And look at this animal cell. This is what's in our bodies. And look at all the things that's in it. So again, this one single cell, like the organelles inside the cell cannot live on their own, but one cell by itself is the smallest unit of life. Okay. So, we're going to learn about the nucleus. We have the endoplasmic reticulum. We have lysosomes and ribosomes and the Golgi apparatus and so many things in our cells that you can imagine why we're so complex, because one single cell, look how complex that is. And things can go into the cell and out of the cell. It's crazy how complicated this is. And it's just amazing. So whenever you drink water or eat food, every single cell in your body will take in that food, take in that water, the nutrients, get rid of waste, which is why we go to the bathroom, because it comes from our cells. Whatever the cell doesn't need, it gets rid of. Okay. All right, Rudolf Virchow. So he studied cells in the 1850s. He was a doctor. He wrote the third part of the cell theory, that all cells come from existing cells. So what's really cool is that an egg, you can consider an egg one giant cell. So an ostrich egg is a really giant cell. And there's a way to see if an egg is fertile. What you would do is it's called candling. And you would take this egg and, well, back in the day, they had candles. We can use really high-powered flashlights now. And if you look inside the cell, you can see the blood vessels. So this is a fertilized egg. Okay, so what we eat are unfertilized eggs. So when you crack open that egg, you see the yellow yolk inside. That would have been the baby chick. The white of the egg is what the baby chick would have fed on for like those 3 to 4 weeks when it was inside the egg. That's the baby's food. And then sometimes you'll see like little stringy parts. That's like how the chick is attached to the nutrients in there, kind of like the umbilical cord. Okay. All right. So I'm going to finish up my slides with this about extremophiles, my favorite of all microorganisms. Let me take you on a little ride here. Okay. I cannot say these words, so don't laugh. So this first extremophile is called a sulfolobus extremophile, and it lives in hot springs. They're acidic. They have lots of sulfur. That sulfur is like that rotten egg smell. If you were ever to smell that, and they look like that. Okay, so extremophiles or microorganisms, single-celled organisms that live in extreme environments that usually no other organisms can live in. All right, so our next one is the methanosarcinarumin. Okay, thanks. Everybody's laughing right now. Don't worry about it. Just laugh. All right, so it lives in an anaerobic, meaning an environment without oxygen. And it gets better. They live in the stomachs of cattle. So cows have 4 stomachs. Okay, I have a little picture here. Let's see. Here we go. Hello. Hello, little cows. So they have four stomachs and they chew and they chew and they have to have four stomachs because, they grass is really hard to get nutrients from and they eat grass and hay and those kind of things. So they have to really digest and break down those nutrients to get the nutrients from that stuff. So anyway, sometimes they'll spit up something, partially digested food. It comes back up. It's called cud. Okay. And there's bacteria that lives in the stomachs of these cattle. It's a very special kind of bacteria. Now you're dying to see what it looks like, I'm sure. And it looks like that. And look, oh my God, it's green, which makes sense because, they eat plants. All right, the next one is the Staphylococcus marinus. Oh, that was easier. Okay, so marinus, like water, like the marine, environment. And they are found in the deep ocean, the hydrothermic events. Again, it's very sulfuric, temperatures of up to 98 degrees Celsius, which is boiling, like 100 degrees Celsius is boiling, or 212 Fahrenheit. And it looks like a pretty sun. They're really pretty to look at. All right, the next one is the Halococcus salif. Okay, I give up. No. So anyway, they are extremophile that are found in really, really salty water. Like the water is so salty that not even fish can live in this water. And that's what they look like. Kind of weird looking. All right, anyway, moving on. We have the Methanococci bertoni. Who names these things? Seriously, like they couldn't make these names easier. So these are an extremophile that lives in really cold places, like way below freezing in Antarctica. And it looks kind of like the ones that live in the hot springs in the water, like really bright red. So I wonder if they're related somehow. Now, okay, get ready for this. If we had been in the classroom, you would have seen these under a microscope. They are my all-time favorite microorganism. They are called tardigrades, also called water bears. They live all over the planet. They are super awesome. Look at how cute, look at that cute little face. He's so adorable. I'm going to show you a video. And spot the microorganism. Don't worry, we zoom in. It's right here. Look how teeny tiny he is. Or no, maybe she, I don't know. So anyway, let's zoom in. And they feed on, they live in like little like patches of water, like if you were going in the forest. And they feed on mosses and lichen. Okay, so you can see this one. We have a better shot in a little bit. But look how cute it is. I think it's so adorable. So this is magnified up to 100 times. Okay, so you can't see these with your eye, by the way. And probably most likely we've all eaten one or two because, they live on leafy things with lots of water and you didn't even know it. Don't worry. So it's going to zoom in. Oh, look how adorable it is. Oh my God, look at that little tongue. There's a little tongue that comes out. Look at that. So they look like little bears in the water. This one's having a hard time walking around because it's on the glass. So usually they live in like the puddles, the pools of water, and they can swim around. Okay. And let's go zoom in. Oh, poor guy. He's having a hard time. Now look at this, because they're kind of see-through. You can see the food inside of its stomach. Look at that little tongue. Oh my God, I love you so much. He's adorable. I want like a million of them. All right, so the really cool thing about water bears is that they're an extremophile. And you can look at this caption up here. Scientists have taken these water bears and they have put them and exposed them to outer space, where it is pretty much, it's almost absolute zero. Not quite, but almost. And what that means is absolute zero is when it becomes so cold that cells stop moving completely. Okay. So even space isn't quite at absolute zero yet. Oh, look, she has eggs. Can I have baby water bears? Oh, my grandma. Yay. All right. So anyway, so the water bears will go into outer space. They will go into stasis. They'll shrivel up and it looks like they're dead. But then they've taken them from space, brought them back to Earth and put them in water and they come back to life. It's amazing. These animals are amazing. And they're my favorite microorganism of all time. All right. So anyway, let's go back to, I really talked a lot today. Let's go back to our activity. We did this together, but wait, there was more. So don't turn in that document. I want you to watch this video It is it's an old video, okay? It's like from the 70s. It's kind of gross, but it's really, really cool. It's like a timeless video. And it's cool because we just came from the astronomy unit. It shows you the vastness of space and how big space is, but then it takes you really, really, really in to it goes right up to a person's hand and it starts getting gross from that point. And you go into the cell and you see how small the cell is. So, my theory, my personal theory is just like space is endless outward, I think space is endless inward. And we just haven't found it yet. We haven't seen it yet because we don't have instruments that can see how small everything is yet. So, chew on that could. All right. So now after that, you're going to watch this ed puzzle, cells and cell theory. There's 10 questions and you're going to go back to here and you're going to write your score. Okay. I got a 6 out of 10. I am not grading you based on that. As long as you do your activities here, and I did this with you, finish that up, you'll get full credit for this assignment. But just put your number there, guys. Okay. Watch that video. And then the last thing I want you to do today is to just join this, follow the instructions. It's a website where you can take a quiz. We'll be taking a quiz on it later. But just to make it easier for you, join it now, click that link, sign up with Google, just type your first and last name when asked, and then it allows you to take the quizzes that I assign. Okay, so I talked way too much today because I love those little tiny microorganisms. That is all I have for today. So happy learning with cells, and I am done. CG out.